And I think to a certain degree, hospitality is selling. Whether you're a bartender or a server or a host or a GM, you're selling hospitality and you're packaging it. The packaging is the marketing, right? The presentation, the ambiance, the atmosphere, the color choices, the lighting, the light fixtures, the menu, the font, the logo. That's all marketing accoutrement.
Welcome to Captive Conversations, powered by Captive Wi-Fi. This podcast brings you the best stories from suppliers, marketers, and operators from our beloved hospitality sector. Let's get on with the show.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the podcast. I've now decided to stop giving the episode numbers because I keep getting it wrong and having to edit it post-edit. So it's nearly 50, which I know, which is great. So please welcome Paul Molinari from Popcorn GTM. So give everyone a bit of a wave.
Hey guys.
And thank you for coming, and thank you for having me on your podcast, which is awesome.
Well, hey man, I appreciate you. You're awesome. You are doing amazing work for the industry, and it's a subject that is, it's in the realm of marketing, and so I'm glad we had a chance to communicate.
It's all about capturing that data, but you do stuff with it, which is better. But okay, cool. So I'm going to dive right in, and we're going to do the two questions from the last guest, which is Dylan, who has a brand called Storylocker, which is really cool actually, and he also works with two other brands. One Sideways, which is a training platform, and Sentiment Search, which is a bit like it's a feedback platform. So his questions were: the first one was, what are your three non-negotiables in life?
Yeah, that's right off the top of my head. I'm going to go to three things that I'll tell my kids that are incredibly important that should be non-negotiable. I'm going to say the first one is you can never lose your curiosity. It's non-negotiable to stop being curious. Can't do that. Curiosity is what fuels everything. It fuels innovation. It fuels learning. It makes your life more complete. Be curious. Another non-negotiable in my life would be family. I mean, family first with regard to everything. People, it's crazy nowadays, particularly as your kid, with a lot of us that have kids, and we're trying to put them through college, and we don't really think about it when they're really young. Maybe a little bit, we start socking some money away, but as they start to get older and you actually start to pay attention to, what it means financially for them to go to school. It's non-negotiable for us philosophically. We got to take care of family first. So I don't want to saddle my kids with loans, or I want a nice path for them. That's non-negotiable. The third bit is, I think, let's keep it a little more philosophical and say integrity. You only have one reputation. You only have one brand, your personal brand, whether it's your company brand. Listen, Adam, you are Captive Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
You are, right? I am Popcorn GTM. We have brands together, and, it's funny, like, well, why don't you just go under the banner of, Adam Foreman's, technical powerhouse or something, or Paul Molinari's, marketing circus. But the reality is that, you are your brand. You are an extension of your brand. And I think that, that approach, you should have the same approach to your brand as you do to yourself. And that should be integrity and reputation.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, integrity and reputation is super important when it comes to anything. And it shows with your client base, right? So as you start to build that out. So I think that's great. Thank you. A second question: what gets you up in the morning? What drives you? What's your passion? And why do you do what you do?
Yeah.
A good snippet for you, this one.
Yeah, that's a real good one, man. So I like to sometimes describe myself as a graphic designer with an MBA, and I love creating. I love art. I love to draw. I love to paint. I love to create music. I love graphic design. I love messaging. Everything that I wanted to do in my life is starting to culminate and come together in my mid-50s, if you can believe it. Right. I've had a lifetime of experience with all of marketing and working for very big companies and big ad agencies and everything else. And Not until maybe 5 years ago where I really got the bug to wait a minute. You know what? I've been doing this so long for so many other people and so many other brands. Isn't it time that I kind of want to choose my own adventure? And that's what gets me up in the morning now because I'm working with clients that I want to work with. I've said no to clients that I don't want to work. It's very important that you find that fit. And when you do, it's not work, it's joy.
Yeah, yeah, I love that. My wife, who I work with, like she said to me, "Yeah, you love what you do every day. You love
Yeah,
what you do every day. Like there's a smile on your face. You get up in the morning, and that's the benefit, right? When you working with some really cool customers and cool clients, and you have that option if you don't see the vision with them, you can choose to say no, which is
that's
hard.
right. Yeah.
Yeah,
And that's, I think, more people should do that. I think it would be a better world if, particularly on the consultant side, if it's not, if you try to find a match,
yeah. I
and
think I was
that's,
with I
yeah,
was with William Connors today and a guy called Tommy Giroux who they're both tech guys, like tech stack guys, and we were talking about because they both do some consultancy on the side, right? So we were talking about it's hard to say no. I was telling them a story when on our IT side, like I was like back in the day, I'd be like, yeah, 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 we can. Customer would be like, oh, we can't afford this. Can you do this and can you do that? And I'd be like, yeah, 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 yeah. And I'd run to the office and the guys would look at me and go, what have you done? And I'd be like, what do you like? We've just given them some refurbished stuff, and they'll be fine.
right.
And then they do this, and they go, "When are you going to learn?" So it took a while. It takes a while to do that. No, this is what it is. This is the proposal. Can you change? Can you do this? Can it be cheaper? No, it won't work. Now the product, the system, the concept won't work. So I think it takes a while. It's learning. I think, me and you in the age that we are, I think we get to learn in time of those. I wish people would have those sort of like little books in the beginning when you start to say,
I know.
keep your integrity, keep your morals, keep everything in this little plaque that you give someone. Someone gets any business they start, have this little book of like, don't go down,
But
as
here's
they
the
say.
thing, the funny thing is that everybody gets there in their own way. And even if you had that book when you were younger, chances are you probably wouldn't even read it. I mean,
Yeah.
let's call it, I mean, I'd call bullshit on myself. You wouldn't even read it.
No, 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 no. I need to be told.
Yeah.
So yeah, okay. So we're going to start with the first three questions, which is the first one is best hospitality experience.
Well, this is kind of easy, actually. And it was relatively recent. As it turns out, my brother lives in Coral Gables, Miami area in Florida. And his wife happens to be my sister-in-law, happens to be the hostess or maitre d' hostess, I guess, at a restaurant called Bouchon Coral Gables. And it's a Thomas Keller establishment, and Thomas Keller of the famous French Laundry, in Napa Valley. This is a Michelin star chef. And so, as you can imagine, his Bouchon restaurant it's high end. And I'll tell you, so we went there um, Wednesday night. I was visiting my brother in Miami. And he's like, "Oh, I got to take you to Bouchon. I mean, don't worry, they're going to treat you like royalty, Jane." And so we went in. My God, you're talking to servers. Now, these are servers that can easily make, 170 grand a year, as a server in our
Yeah.
industry. Because why? Because at that level and at that experience, you're also a salesperson. You're upselling wine, you're playing into the entire experience and you're really on top of your game. So the entire team there everybody knows their role. Everybody has a part to play. The bartender, the hostess, the servers, the runners, the chefs. It's like, it's the real deal. One server comes out with this wooden box and I'm like, what the hell is this, Brian? And I have no idea. Come on. I'm just like a New England kid. They And she opens up the box and it's these black truffles inside. And it's just,
Yeah.
and you're like, are those like, she's like, yeah, would you like some truffles on your risotto? Or whatever? And I was like, yeah. And so she's very generously, and anyway, so we had this entire experience and everybody was amazing. And my brother's like, we got to run out. And we're like, get the kitchen some beers or something.
Yeah.
Just to say thank you for all this. So we did. We ran out and got a 12-pack of Pacificos for the chefs and the staff in the kitchen and everybody to have after their shift. But anyway, that level of hospitality was insane, and it really kind of makes you remember, or even sparks all of the synapses about what the ultimate is, what everybody's trying to achieve on some level.
How do you top that? Like,
Yeah, like, right. It's like, how do you
take
top
that
that?
concept and how do you top that in a little casual dining restaurant?
Yeah,
And
so
so on.
that was really cool, and it was a really neat kind of reset, or rather, just a
I think
reminder.
it's going to be a nice memory because that risotto and the black truffle is in my mind now. So I think that's going to be in your mind. That story is going to be retold consistently of what you just told me, which I love because that's hospitality, right?
That
So
is,
that's what
yeah.
that's what I love about the storytelling piece because you're going to tell that to more and more people because that was the experience that you had. And I'm already blown away. I'm like that. The box of the truffles and
And the
it
box
just
and the truffles, and he's telling you, about, oh, well, you should think about this wine and that wine with this and this and that. And it's all done in such a way that was not, you weren't being
effortless.
upsold. It was just done right. It
Yeah.
was really nice.
Yeah. And I think those sort of spaces, it's interesting when you look at like the credit crunch and when you look at people having challenges, the high ends always do well because there's always the experience, right? It's really interesting to think about those sort of stuff. Okay. Second one is best hospitality.
Yeah. Best hospitality tech, I think, is the one that is complete as invisible as possible. The one that I don't ever get to see, but I know is working in the background. Having worked at Crunchtime for about 9 years, you kind of you develop an appreciation for, the journey of the hamburger, right? Like what it takes to get this raw ground beef and all of these other ingredients mixed together to formalize a burger that's served to you. And however it gets to you, maybe you ordered it online and then it appears to you via delivery, whatever. Generally speaking, the order, once the order is given, it goes into this digital world, into this ether that is this amalgamation of different technologies that are all working together. You try as best you can to be integrated and in sync so that the data is captured right, everything's cooked right, and it's handed off in a very meticulous and simple way where it's still hot, it's still fresh, and it tastes the way it's supposed to taste, and it's portioned the way it's supposed to be portioned. What's the best tech? The best tech is the one that doesn't screw up in that chain.
True. But how about something that you've used, maybe like a tech, like something in hospo that you've used, maybe an interesting piece of kit or an interesting something you
Yeah,
might have
well, to
used?
me, I'm going to play favorites here, and I'm going to choose one of my clients because to me, this should be a non-negotiable for every restaurant chain, and that's a company called Curbit. And what Curbit does, for all intents and purposes, it makes sure that when you order your food, it's delivered or presented to you on time.
Oh, okay.
Guests have very, very simple expectations when they order food, particularly if they're doing it off premise. They want to make sure that it's delivered to them on time, still hot, still fresh, in a reasonably, in this sort of Goldilocks moment. And that's what Curbit does. It sits between your order management system like an Olo and your kitchen display system like a QSR automation. It's kind of like middleware, but what it does is it makes sure that when the order is received, it's prioritized according to everything from where the guest is to the complexity of the make, when to fire it.
And what about when to fire it, right? I guess so to the point that if it got fired and the delivery driver's late, can it do some smart stuff with
Well, the
refiring
good
and that
news
sort of
is
jazz?
that it actually that it promotes transparency. So if I'm ordering, say, one of their customers is Kava or Smashburger, right? So if I order from Smashburger, it'll tell me, Paul, thanks for your order. Your order will be ready at this time, right? So it gives you a promise time. And then let's just say a bus pulls up in front of Smashburger, with 50 kids from the soccer team. If the kitchen is at capacity, right? This is called capacity management. If the kitchen is at capacity, well, then it might reprioritize your order and say, we are running 10 minutes behind, pick up your order at this time now. Right. So it's constantly, the idea is
Transparency.
that nobody wants to walk into the place to pick up when they said it was going to be picked up and then sit around for 20 minutes or wait for 20, where's my food? And then you're walking through, a mosh pit of delivery drivers and other people looking for their food. Now,
Yeah,
I
who's
want to
important?
know when it's going to be ready so I can be there and get it. Or when should the driver come and get it? I think that's an incredely important
Plugs
technology
directly
for our
into
industry.
POS, and is that the online ordering part, or is that a plug into the online ordering part? Like, is that, do they provide the UI and you
Yeah,
order
so
through that
let's say
platform?
Olo is your order, right? Is you're ordering through an Olo order management system that
So
traditionally
this is
fed
the bolt-on that
ADS.
sits there and keeps an eye on what's happening
That's right.
with implementation inside. That's really clever.
Yeah, it
It's so
is really
needed as
clever,
well
and
because people
they're
get
crushing it.
slammed, right? Yeah, people get slammed the whole time. I spoke to a tech company in Australia they've come over to the UK, and they had something interesting, which was the bit where, because they do the KDS, when the order's fired and they've sent the message out to the driver to go collect it, if the drive is delayed, or if the timer is more than 10 minutes and that burger's been sitting there, the kitchen display system will automatically refire, and then that burger just goes to wastage, which I thought was really clever. You should speak to them about adding that as a feature because it's pretty
Well,
clever,
so
injecting.
yeah, actually, so that's one of the things that restaurants want to try to avoid is a remake.
Yeah, yeah, of course.
Just so the ROI alone on remakes and eliminating remakes is, fairly substantial. But what it also kind of does is it allows you, from a capacity management standpoint, it allows you to actually do more orders because the orders now are orchestrated, right? It's not just everything at once, or even worse, like the manager flipping off the ability to take digital orders, which happens.
Yes, yes,
So
loads.
it's this kind of, magical throttling, if you will,
Yeah,
or
yeah, 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 yeah.
really it's AI enhanced throttling that
Doesn't
really
overload the
orchestrates
kitchen,
the
right?
entire system.
That's really clever. I'll take it out. Well, we'll put it in the notes anyway.
Beautiful.
Okay. I am gonna go back in time. So let's go from the beginning. Did you, when you were when you were
Younger.
younger, did you work in hospo, or
I did.
where did, what did you do? Because I
Yeah,
find it's really interesting when
it
people
is.
start.
So for 4 summers, I guess my first summer job that I did for 4 years straight, all through college. I was a server and bartender at a yacht and country club in Connecticut, on the Connecticut coastline in New England. Connecticut
Nice
is
tips, I'm
one of the
assuming.
So for your British audience, Connecticut sits in between Massachusetts and New York.
Mhm. Yeah.
Connecticut is a state that kind of attaches those two. And Connecticut has this beautiful coastline. And I was going to school in upstate New York, and my parents at the time lived on the South Shore of Connecticut. So I would come home, and I got this job at the Pine Orchard Yacht and Country Club. And it's this very, muckety muck. Lawyers, bankers, rich business owners would summer at Pine Orchard. And it was this beautiful golf course and a beautiful harbor with yachts. It's a freaking yacht and country club. That's all you
Yeah,
need.
yeah,
And they had great food. But here's the thing. It's just the hospitality. So every summer I would come home, and during school vacations as well, I'd work there and I'd be a waiter, and I got to meet a lot of the guests and the members. And I'll never forget, because it showed me that really wealthy people are just people. They put their pants on the same way as you do. They have the same concerns that, your parents have. They want the best for their kids. They want this and that. So it kind of broke down a barrier between kind of a middle class kid
yeah.
and very wealthy people. I was like, they're kind of like normal people, and they got to know me, and I got a lot of opportunities later from that.
That's handy.
So that was handy. But the idea, working in the kitchen, and Scott, the chef, great chef, and his wife also happened to be the maitre d', Stephanie, and the bartender. It was a machine, and you saw the roles that people played. And I remember as a server, the GM would call us all Waitrons, Waitron 2000s.
Love that.
But it was right. It was like really fun. It was a team invite. Restaurant is like a team sport, man. And so I had 4 years of that, and that was it. And after that, I never went back to hospitality until many years later. I had a whole career.
Do you think being in hospitality prior adjusted your expectations on how to communicate with people? 'Cause I find that I was speaking to, we had a guy here a little while ago, and he was like, I wish we would bring national service back to the army so that young people would have to either choose the army or work in hospitality. They can choose either or, because it's really interesting because I ran events and for years. I met loads of different people. So working in hospitality, I think adjusts your expectations on, or adjusts your reach on how you read people and how you communicate with people. Anyone who I've spoken to who works in hospital, who's worked in hospital at any point, understands people a bit differently. I think it's that you resonate with people. So when you speak to anyone, so in business, someone that's come straight out of college and university, right, and from academia, and they go straight into business, misses that human connection. Do you think that working there adjusted your expectations on human behavior?
Well, without question. As a matter of fact, one of the things that I feel very strongly about in marketing is that you have to be able to sell, right? You have a lot of marketing specialists out there that can put together campaigns or put together the operations of a campaign, and even the thought and the idea. You need to communicate that idea, right? You need to influence the client on your concept. You need for them to see your vision, and that requires a deal of selling. And I think to a certain degree, hospitality is selling. Whether you're a bartender or a server or a host or a GM, you're selling hospitality, and you're packaging it. The packaging is the marketing, right? The presentation, the ambiance, the atmosphere, the color choices, the lighting, the light fixtures, the menu, the font, the logo. That's all marketing accoutrement. But the selling aspect is the delivery, the delivering of it all. And so, yeah, I think from an early age, I saw how that was all packaged in a way.
I love how your marketing brain's going to, it's a packaged item, and
It
you
is.
break down that package to things. It's really interesting to hear
Well,
you
it's,
say it, because
sales and
it's so
marketing,
true.
Adam, I
Yeah.
know. I think we even talked a little bit about it. Sales and marketing is these are not separate entities. And one of the things that, I believe very strongly in, and I advocate very much so for my clients and my teams and anybody I've ever worked for or with, sales and marketing are one. They should be in the same room together. There's a reason, if there's tension between sales and marketing, it's palpable. And you need to remedy that. And usually it stems from marketing trying to do everything they can to support sales, and sales, when they are receiving what marketing has promised, a lot of times in the form of leads, sales says, I don't know, guys, these don't look like leads. These are not qualified leads. And very often it's because there's no definition of what is a qualified lead. So what I'm trying to say is marketing sales needs to come together to understand what is a what is an MQL, what is an SQL, a marketing qualified lead and a sales qualified lead. That way, when there's a handoff, nobody's wasting
Smooth.
anybody's time. And sales says, yep, these are the type of people we're looking for. So it, goes back to, ICP, your ideal customer profile, working on personas, working on messaging that's targeting the right people, all of these things working together. That way, sales is going to have a conversation with a lead or a person that's an intelligent conversation where that person their sales is talking to already has a preconception
Right
that,
messaging. So it's got the right messaging.
like, they're
Yeah.
already in their back, the prospect is already thinking, man, just tell me everything I fucking want to hear because I know this is the right thing. It's like, don't screw this up, guy.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So after talk, where did it begin into the marketing and sales? Where did it start? Like, let's go back. So you finished, I'm assuming, academia, and
Yeah.
then
Oh,
where did
funny
where
story. Yeah, this is hilarious. So I already let you in on how old I am. And so when I got out of college, our economy was in kind of a similar condition as it is today. It was not good. Bush one was in office. We just we just had we just invaded Iraq, Gulf Storm. And there wasn't a lot of stuff out there. I had, got a marketing degree, and I was determined I wanted to get into advertising. Advertising. I didn't know what was marketing. Who the hell knew? All I knew was advertising. And and I lived on Long Island at that time when I graduated college. My parents had just moved, like wrapped up college, just moved from Connecticut to Long Island. So I'm in very close proximity to New York City. And I was going to get a job in Manhattan. In advertising. And God damn, I looked.
That's the way, right?
Yeah, I mean, I looked, man.
You just
I
look
looked
up,
and I
you
looked
look
and
up,
like,
and I'm going to work in that building there, right?
yeah, exactly, like that one. I don't know, like, and and there's no internet really.
Yeah,
I mean, you would literally go to Barnes and Noble and like buy a book of like employers,
yeah.
that you would write to and send your resume to. And this is like insanity. Like, I don't even.
Just
How are
sounds
we even
weird now.
alive?
Yeah, yeah. And the phone calls of interviews and and letters back and forth.
Like you would wait, get a letter or return, like or a phone call, and God forbid, like your mother answered the phone. So I don't know how anybody did anything, but we did. But the point being is I didn't get a job. I did not get a job in the city, but I did. I was a huge sports fan. I was a Yankee fan and a hockey fan, Ranger fan, and all that. And I would always see the Wiz. There was this company called Nobody Beats the Wiz. And they were, they were plastered on the right field wall of, in Yankee Stadium, and they were on all over the boards for the Rangers. And I was like, and they're always on TV. And I was like, shit, I want to go work for the Wiz, man. I want to get a job in their marketing department.
Yeah.
And so I figured out a way to go there. And they were like, wow, you really know a lot about stereo equipment, a lot about consumer electronics. And I did. But we can't hire you, man, until you work in a store. So I go and I work in this store in the middle of Huntington, Long Island, and they make me an audio manager. So here I am selling audio, stereos and CD players and speakers and rooms full of really cool gear. And I'm like, not exactly what I imagined coming out of college. I thought I was going to work in an ad, but now I am like selling stereo equipment.
Yeah.
But anyway, life is all about recognizing opportunities. And so there I am at the Wiz selling stuff.
Yeah.
And that in and of itself was an amazing education on speaking with people and trying to negotiate, because back in those days, the price was never the price. So what's the best price? What's the best price? And so you're like,
it's a bartering.
It's bananas. In walks this like 6'10" kind of disheveled guy one day, and everybody's just kind of like clears away. And I'm like, I'll go talk to him. So he walks up to me, he goes, where's the antennas? I go, antenna? Like, what are you trying? It's like, well, what kind of powered antennas do you have? I'm like, we have these T-E-R-K antennas over here. They're awesome. What are you trying to get? Howard Stern from the city? Or, he's like, so I talked to him a little bit about it. I'm like, this is why you want the Turk antennas. And this is why, they're really cool. I mean, they look beautiful. You guys put it on top of your stereo. Thing looks like a trophy. And so the guy's like, that was a great pitch. I'm like, all right, thanks. How many do you want? He's like, no, I'm Neil Turk. That's my company. And so I go, oh, really? Well, nice to meet you, Neil. How many do you want? No. And he's like, come here, I got to show you something. So all of a sudden, and this is this big guy. You wouldn't even know. You thought he just like, you don't know where the hell he came from. So we go outside, and he's got this beautiful, like brand new Land Rover that I had never seen before. Like they were new to it, the US, like the new discovery, like, and he's showing me all this stuff. So anyway, we have this conversation. I'm like, dude, you got to hire me. And he's like, and it turns out that Turk Technology, which is sold at everywhere from the Wiz to Best Buy to Circuit City to all of these places all over the world, is literally, 5 miles down the road. And he was just doing some mystery shopping.
I love that.
And so 2 weeks later, I work at I work at Turk. I'm a marketing manager.
Awesome. That was and falling into that was amazing. That's awesome.
Yeah. And then, so, and then that's how life works, right?
Yeah.
And then you kind of go through these different opportunities, and ultimately how did I get to Boston? My brother's going to law school up here. I'm working for Turk. We have a client called Tweeter, which is a big 175 store chain in New England. I go to visit Tweeter with my sales reps that are in New England. I'm the marketing manager, so I go up there, support my sales reps. My brother's going to law school. He's like, stay with me. He introduces me to a fellow law student, and 25 years later,
That's it.
3 kids later, and,
You never left.
yeah, and I
So did
work at
you?
Tweeter,
What was the strategy like when you first? So when you became the marketing manager, what was this like? Was there a whole new? Did you do a whole new strategy for them, or
there was a
was
whole,
it
so,
just
so the amazing thing about the people that you meet in life, I think Mitch Albom wrote a book, The 5 People You Meet in Heaven or something like that. Neil Turk, who has since passed away, uh, will be one of those 5 people. He was a mentor. Everybody, if you're lucky enough in life, you get to work with a couple of mentors. I've been really fortunate that I've had several. My last one being Bill Bellissimo at Crunchtime, who, we would have, I was convinced that either he was going to kill me or I was going to kill him at certain points, but without, in a very loving way. But you meet these people that are mentors. And so Neil Turk was one of those. And it turns out he was a graphic designer and he created the Blimpies logo, worked for Playtex. He worked for Pepsi. He shot album covers for Dire Straits and
wow?
Muddy Waters and like
Yeah,
all of these things. And he taught, and I was like, well, I love art, man. And he's like, well, do whatever you want. I will guide you. And so
I love
that's
that.
how I got into graphic design. And that's how he taught me how to use, or he gave me the tools to go use Adobe Illustrator and all of these other things. And so you get these mentors and and you develop your craft from these smart people.
But not everyone gets that. I mean, I mean, it's awesome. Like, not everyone gets that opportunity to have that freedom and then, flow into what you've. Yeah, the career journey is like crazy. Like
Isn't
just
it
flowing
crazy?
into it's crazy. Literally, but the way it's coming out is like the flow. It's like a flow
It's
of
like a
like
flow,
something.
Adam.
Yeah,
That's
it's
right.
awesome.
It's like I would love, the way that you got to captive Wi-Fi as a business owner, you had your journey and there was these decisions along the way that you made that get you there. And if you look back, you can kind of pick the moments in time where like my life would be completely fucking different if I didn't, if I didn't like recognize that, or better yet, if I saw this 7-foot disheveled dude and was like everybody else, like I'm staying away from that dude. Who knows, But the idea, and that's like going back, I think, to the beginning of our conversation about curiosity.
Yeah, 100%.
You have to, because if you're
Yeah,
not curious, then you will not recognize opportunity.
yeah, I love that. So then you moved to Boston, stayed with your brother, and then you went to work for.
Yeah. So I went to work at Tweeter, which was a customer of Turk, and he gave me the blessing, go,
Nice.
and I met my soon to be, fiance, right? And I'm living in Boston now, and I'm like, this is the greatest city in the world, and I love it. And it is my favorite city in the world, and I would never leave this place. And I had to change my sports teams, and I had to be a Knicks fan. I had to like drop my Knicks and become a Celtic fan and all this stuff. And this
And
is
the
like
weather, the weather.
the weather sucks, but you're used to that.
Yeah, yeah, ours is worse. No, don't worry about it. Not as much snow, I think.
Well, we're lucky. We get the 4 seasons. But anyway, so I'm in Boston now, and it was really hard. Tweeter was going. This is at around this time, Adam. The iPhone was coming to town, and the iPhone was changed everything for everyone. All of these wonderful consumer electronics stores that we all used to love, they're all gone. Thank
Yeah, it's
you,
crazy, isn't it? It's
thank you,
crazy.
iPhone. Yeah, and it
Yeah.
wasn't even the iPhone; it was the iPod. People are now, instead of having speakers and in walls and this and now it's like, no, I got all 3,000 songs, on this little device, and I'm very happy to listen to it through my headphones or through my computer speakers, which is putrid. But so while I'm at Tweeter, that's starting to go down, and all the signs are on the wall, and my CMO, who happens to be at even today, one of my best friends, says, I got an opportunity to work at this big ad agency. And I got there through a marketing tactic that I developed for Twitter, which was, believe it or not, direct mail, but direct mail in an automated way that took the data, your purchase data, and morphed it into an offer. So Adam walks in and you buy a Sony TV, and we take that purchase information. And this sounds extremely like common nowadays, but back then, this is freaking groundbreaking. We take your purchase information, we sent that and we developed three or four different offers that we can send you. And based upon your purchase information and who you are as a customer, including some credit card data that we would overlay, we would develop an offer that would go to the printer, print out, hey, like literally personalized. Hey, Adam, we hope you're enjoying your new, Sony XBR, 452, blah, blah, blah. Right. To make this thing really sing, you need, this Sony surround sound system. Here's here's a coupon for 10% off that expires at the end of the month. Yeah. So that was a revolutionary marketing tactic at the time, where you took behavior and
which wasn't being done,
and you converted that into a different offer to get them back in. So that was an extremely successful strategy and tactic. And as it just so happens, some mucky muck at Digitas, which was Boston's largest advertising agency, most prestigious digital advertising agency, one of their people got that offer and was like, holy shit, what is this? And so I got backdoored to join Digitas and I headed up the CRM division for General Motors.
Wow.
One of their biggest clients, if not their biggest client. Yeah. And so I ran the team for a short period, only a couple of years, for CRM for General Motors. And here I am now flying to Detroit 1 or 2 nights a week, and my kids are little. But we're like, screw it, anybody can do anything for a couple of years. And, so I'm running CRM for 8 brands across General Motors, from Cadillac to Chevy to Buick, et cetera.
Yeah.
And we were charged with reconsideration, which means Adam buys a Cadillac, 24 to 36 months into ownership, we're hitting you now with offers to get you to buy another Cadillac.
Yeah.
So that was an amazing experience, surrounded by very smart people that were extraordinarily creative. And I was on the strategy team. So, I was client facing, talking with the clients about what are the offers, what does it work? And we discovered all of this stuff through data. Yeah. Like, for example,
not everyone was touching back then, to be fair, right?
Not everybody was touching it, but we would, like, one of my best buddies, still to this day, he ran the analytics on the General Motors team. And so I was the client strategy, he was the analytics. And he's like, Paul, you got to check this out. He's like, what? I'm like, what? He's like, did you know, we just found out that if the owner in the vehicle hits the OnStar button, you remember OnStar? It was like a little blue button on your, what's it called? Rearview mirror, that you can talk to a person.
Yeah.
So here's the thing. If a person ever uses OnStar, they're like 10 times more likely to buy another GM vehicle. I mean, they're like, the OnStar is like a world beater.
Yeah. Customer service piece, right?
Just this customer service piece. So we took that data and we're like, hey, GM, did you know? They were like, holy shit. And so here's the thing, why that's so important. Number one, it told them to get more people to touch the goddamn OnStar button. Yeah. But number two, when you're back in market, and all of these principles, by the way, are now being applied even in restaurant technology, but it told it told us that the offers that we would generate need not be so high. Yeah. So the amount of money that they could save, reconsideration to get people to really repurchase, was that much more impactful to the bottom line. So, and after that, we did the same. Then I got put on the AstraZeneca team, and we pitched a very similar thing to AstraZeneca to do that with their doctor. Believe it or not in a different way, but it was it was a CRM driven task. So I had all the CRM knowledge, and so fresh off of that,
that's going from like big corporate over to, and then it was into Crunchtime.
Yeah, then it was basically I had a short stint somewhere else.
Dark side of
I had a short stint somewhere else. I was at Digitas, I don't know, a little over 5 years, or something like that. And then, and ultimately I met Bill Bellissimo in 2013 at Crunchtime. And he had this 15-year-old startup, and we had met through a mutual friend who I'd worked at Tweeter, believe it or not. And my friend who I worked with at Tweeter was the marketing guy at Crunchtime. And he was like, I got to get the hell out of here, but I'm tasked with finding my replacement.
Yeah. You'll
So
do.
he found, he's like, "Oh, are you interested? I got to tell you, you should run. I mean, you don't want to be here, but if you're interested." I was like, yeah, well, I am interested. Let me
Well, you
talk
like a
to him, man.
challenge. You like a challenge.
Yeah. So I talked to Bill, and you were like, listen, man, you got some great customers. They obviously believe in your product, but Jesus, that is one ugly ass brand that doesn't communicate very well. I mean, it was not an attractive presentation, and it was not a very good message, but somehow, some way they managed to put together some really good customers, including, big ones like Cheesecake, and, just customers that were really complex, that had amazingly complex supply chain and inventory problems.
The interesting thing I find in hospo is that I think one of my colleagues said the other day, I think 75% of people recommend. So even if the product looks shit, if another operator or group says, you got to use these guys, it's just awesome. I mean, that's a
That's
benefit.
right.
Obviously, having a nicer brand and better message is always working. But, because, you look at it and go, that doesn't look right.
Well, yeah, that's absolutely right. And so that you're spot on. Testimonials and peer review is always and always will be the most important thing, because if it works and your friend says it works, okay. But here's the thing, that only take you is so far. That's not super fast growth mode.
No,
You
that's
really
the
need,
slow roll.
yeah, some slickness. And more importantly, you need that sales and marketing alignment that we talked here about earlier, where particularly, if you're bringing leads in, because at the time when I joined in 2013, putting mission critical data into the cloud was still something that not everybody was really enthusiastic about. So, there was
Also,
some
tech companies,
challenges.
but tech companies generally don't have back then, and still some now don't really communicate. You sign up and then you're using a platform. No one talks to you. Like especially back then, you sign up and no one. You'd just be another number, right?
That's
There's
right.
no
And actually,
messaging.
one of our messaging, one of our pillars was service. And that wasn't just mouth speak. That was, I think, 75% of the employee base was customer facing and customer service related. So that was really the thing. I mean, we muscled through implementation. I mean, what we alluded to was like nobody ever got fired, for choosing Crunchtime, because Crunchtime delivered. You knew you were going to implement. Whereas with somebody else, maybe we'll go cheaper, and it's all the same shit, right? Well, no, but you know, yeah,
They come back. They
yeah, they come
realize,
back. So Bill
yeah,
was a master negotiator, never really gave much of an inch, because he knew the company's value. He knew what they delivered. Yeah. So that was my journey. So after that, I'll just put a bow on it. Like I was
well,
at,
to be fair, 9 years, 9 years
yeah,
is
eight
a
and a
long
half
time, right?
years. I was
Yeah,
burnt at the end.
yeah,
And, there was, at the one point, I finally, like my friend before me, my predecessor before me, I was tasked with finding my replacement,
yeah.
and I did.
So were you doing others? Were you doing stuff were you tinkering on the side at that point towards the end,
No,
or
at
is
the
it?
end, I was thinking about how do I do popcorn?
Yeah,
But I kind of did it almost, how do I do it kicking and screaming? Like, I got really comfortable. We had amazing success. Okay.
yeah,
We took like a $5 million company and turned it into, I don't know, like a $60 million company during the time I was there.
amazing.
And that was something to be said. We had every great brand that we ever wanted was there. And we had the power to buy other companies. And now they're $100 million company through
Yeah,
acquisition
I think
of
they
like
bought. Yeah,
Zenput.
they bought. I think they bought 6 or 7 platforms, right? And then
Yeah,
brought it all
yeah.
in.
So in some ways, I mean, I don't know. In a lot of ways, they're turning into something that we despised originally, which was, all of these companies that are better together by,
Yeah,
gluing and
single platform.
pasting all the shit together. And Crunchtime was like, nope, we're organic. Everything we do is all us all the time.
Yeah.
Well, not anymore, but that's life. And that's how you grow to 100 million. You hire other companies and their sales, and you try to bring it all together. So I was fried on that. And the good news is that my boss Bill saw that too. I got to hire or be part of the decision making of bringing in my successor, who was Pamela
Mhm.
Robertson, who is now the CMO at Paytronics.
Awesome.
Yep.
They've just been bought by Access. Yeah,
Yeah.
Paytronics is they're beasting it out at the moment over there. They are. I think any enterprise. I mean, enterprise crazy, right? I just didn't realize the reach they have. It is
Yeah. I had no
huge.
idea either. And actually,
Yeah.
when I was in Edinburgh a couple of weeks ago, and I was looking at, I don't know if it was a KDS or some screen. I was in some restaurant and I saw Access, and I saw the little
Yeah.
Access logo, and I
Access
was like,
Group. Yeah, yeah,
because I know they're big in Europe, right? Yeah.
yeah. So they've bought a lot of products. They've bought a lot. I mean, loads. They've really gone on the challenge of they've got the pods platform, the reservations platform, they've got everything. It's crazy. They've stock control. I mean, compliance, man. I mean, from like account. So I think they're originally an accountancy firm or doing finance, and then they just gone in and they are buying and buying and buying. It is crazy. I think Paytronics was probably the biggest because it was a
Yeah.
big buy. It was a
Yeah, it was a big
big.
buy. I mean, this is a company again that real staying power, great, amazing company. And so, my time at Crunchtime ended. Pamela was brought on. I learned a bunch from her, and like I said, when I wanted to go do Popcorn, Bill and Pam, they were both like, "Great, we'll be your first client."
Awesome.
Yeah, so that worked out very well, and that kind of helped me glide through a period that allowed me to kind of like, how the hell do I run a business? Like, I've never done this with QuickBooks. What the hell's
Yeah.
this?
Yeah. Yeah. How many
Taxes?
hours? How many hours do I check? How many hours?
Yeah. And I quickly learned that I hate project work. I don't want to do it. I'll be retained, and we'll
Yes.
we'll find a rate that's comfortable for everybody. Believe me, nobody will work harder for you.
Yeah.
But so that's how kind of Popcorn came to be. Tried some things along the way, had a partner along the way, didn't really work out for various reasons, including predominantly different points of view, different
Yeah.
ways in which you want to go.
Yeah.
And Popcorn was my brand,
And
and
where did popcorn and where did that come from? Like,
it came
where's
from
the
my
name?
kitchen table with my wife.
I love that.
And we wanted something that was fun, that it
Yeah.
was, that was relevant to food in some way, and excitement and suspenseful.
It's
And
quite a good, memorable name, to be honest with you. When you say it, like you're not going to forget it when someone meets. Do you know what I mean?
yeah,
It's a nice one
thank you.
that's been chosen. One of the main questions is like in your, I'll say 2 decades of experience, what are the biggest challenges you've seen brand space when it comes to marketing or go to market stuff? Like, what's the biggest challenges you've seen? Like, what are the biggest, or the hurdles?
Yeah, I think that I think a lot of time, particularly in restaurant technology, one of the pitfalls that I see often on the startup side is saying that they sell to restaurants. And restaurants is not, that's not an ICP, that's a category. You really need to define who your ideal customer profile is. You need to understand and whittle down as best you possibly can who that target audience, who that target customer is. Because if you really understand that, then you understand what their specific pain points are. And you can zero in on them and have really intelligent, great conversations and great messaging pointed towards them. So the first thing is really defining that ICP, and then defining your value across the stakeholders in the company. All right. You need to create value statements that are relevant for the C-suite. What that means is, what's the value for the CMO? What's the value for the COO, for finance, for technology, for the chief executive? What is your value across each one of those different stakeholders? And if you can nail the value for each one of those, the buy-in is going to be much faster and greater and better understood by everybody.
Yeah, they're tick boxes, right? If you tick all the right boxes, then it's going to hit right.
You
If it's just
tick
a,
the
if it's
boxes,
if
and you also,
yeah,
you want to solve, when we talk about pain points, there's pain points that are done, operationally, but there's pain points too from the marketing side. The CMO has very specific goals he or she's trying to solve for. The same thing with the CFO. The CFO, has very specific pain points that you're trying to, well, how does and maybe I'm telling you, your solution impacts all of these people. You need to figure out what it solves, what those pain points are and how it solves for it and how to communicate that in a way into your pitch that is very holistic.
Yeah, I think then it resonates with each area because in hospitality everything's quite siloed. So you might hit from the marketing, but then you get stuck with finance, right? You might
That's
hit with marketing, you get stuck with operations because you're focusing on the one piece. So you might get a go for the marketing director and the finance director tells you to go away because it doesn't mean anything to them. So it's a
That's
really
right. That's
interesting.
right. You have
It's
to
so
make it mean
interesting.
something to them.
Yeah,
Just because you're selling a marketing solution does not mean it doesn't have an impact on operations, financials, or technology. It touches everybody all the time. So we have this thing called that I like to do for my clients called a marketecture. A
I like that.
marketecture, think about it like it's a visual representation of what your value is and
Yeah.
how it impacts the different pieces inside of your client company, right? And kind of like where it fits in their world. And so a marketecture is something, again, very visual, very impactful. People understand immediately, oh, okay, I get what you guys do and how it helps me because me is my universe, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah, yeah. It's really interesting. I've never even thought about doing that, and that might immediately goes to like a spider graph of where, for us, for example, from where the data comes in to where the bums on seats and revenue, and because you can say ROI, that means nothing. You can say we make you more ROI, but what does that mean? Like everyone's like, great, more ROI, but then the finance director's like, go away, no, it doesn't mean anything to me. But if you could
No,
do
you
if you did it,
do have to, if you do
yeah,
say ROI, you need to figure out, even if you have to make some assumptions,
yeah.
make those assumptions and put it into
If you
some
can do
kind
the
of math.
visuals like you're saying and have that really nice piece, then whoever opens it understands each part of it and how it's intertwined.
That's right. One of my clients is a great company. I tend to work with a lot of other consultants too.
Mm.
I'm working with a few consultants right now, but one of them is a company called One Goal Consulting, One Goal. And it's headed up by sort of like couple of industry legend guys. This guy, Matt Hazelhoff, and another guy, Mike Falcone. And these are former Omnivore executives. They, what they're trying to do is put together sort of an old school product rep firm. They have, I think, about 11 different technology vendors that they have very intimate relationships with. They understand their products up, down, and sideways. And then these guys also have really tight, trusting relationships with many different restaurant brands because they've sold to
Yeah,
them in the past and
there's
they
trust.
know them, they can text them and have conversations. And so the idea is, well, if we can take your excellent technology that's probably not on the radar because let's face it, you have this new nascent technology that you've had some wins, but it's not on everybody's radar yet. So you hire a rep firm, just like in the olden days when I had consumer electronics and I would travel the country and I'd go to New England with my product rep that was selling Turk to Tweeter and all the New England based stores. Same thing. OGC, One Goal Consulting, takes these wonderful technologies and sells them to everybody from fat brands to Five Guys,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
or at
Awesome.
least gets them in front of them
Yeah.
because they have the trust.
Yeah.
So I was going with this. They have a marketecture on their site, and it's the vendors, it's the restaurant brands, and it's the salespeople. Because here's the thing: you can be a salesperson and work for OGC on the side.
Oh,
Right. So now I'm like I work for PAR, right? But on the side, hell, I work for OGC and I got 10, 12 other solutions. And I've got a couple great relationships with some great brands. Well, I can now go, make some commission on some other stuff. So OGC kind of puts this in the architecture,
yeah.
explains how those things relate with
Yeah,
one
how it
another and
flows.
how they all work.
Very clever. I think I'm going to build one. So thank you.
I'll
That's
help you.
helpful.
I'll
Thank you.
help you.
Yeah, that's amazing. Okay, that's really interesting. And I've not seen something. I've seen some decks out there, but they're generally not pulling all the facets of what you're talking about. They just focus on the direct stuff. But if you're able to build that sort of marketecture out to give the understanding to everyone in the business, then you've got buy-in from everyone in the business.
Well, one of
It's
the
super
things I
clever.
do for my clients is a little more, it's, how do you get there? You get there through this exercise called message mapping. And a message map is its entire intent is to get everybody on the same page about what captive Wi-Fi's, who is captive Wi-Fi, why do you
Yeah.
exist, what's your core value what are your key differentiators to everybody else, what are the table stakes that captive Wi-Fi has to do, and then the message map will break down those different C-level stakeholders. What's the value for the marketing? What's the value for the finance, for the ops, for the tech, for the executive? Right. And then how is that value? How does it solve their pain points? And then how does that value to them accrue across the organization? So from this message map, which after it's completed, everybody knows what the fuck is going on. Everybody in the company now completely understands who you are, what you do, and why you exist. You laminate it, you put it under glass, and this is now this is now what your
Your core
company is
values, right?
and
Yeah, yeah,
dictates everything else that you do.
yeah. Love that.
So to get to a marketecture, you need to go through that first. You
It's
need to
very
understand
interesting.
that. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
these are the
I don't
steps
think
that,
enough people do. I don't think enough people do it.
no, of
It's
course
really
they
interesting.
absolutely don't.
They could because you look at people like founders and stuff. They're just working on scaling and scaling and scaling. And that whole messaging piece would just be like, it's a good product, people like it, and then refer. And then you get to that point where you're talking about where you need that
Well,
to
the
really
great
scale.
brands, right? The
Yeah.
great brands, they do that. The ones that you know and love and have a core,
Yeah.
these brands, believe me, there's a message map somewhere. And, if it's not tattooed on the founder's forehead, then
Yeah.
it exists in a place where certainly any public facing statement, comments, I mean, like, for example, in the message map, there's a section that I call, boilerplate. And there's a long and a short version. What's 50 words boilerplate that describes captive Wi-Fi? What's the 100-word version of that? And then when you do a press release, about captive Wi-Fi, pick which one you want. Or better yet, you're part of RTN or some trade organization and you need 50-word descriptor of your company. Use the same damn fit, use that has been flushed through your message map. And that's what you use consistently
Yeah. Because the same messaging across the board. I
instead of
like that.
making it up every time you do it.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. It's seen anyone who reads it or reads it again who's read it before, same messaging throughout, rather
Yeah,
than
it's consistency,
different type of
baby.
text. Yeah,
Consistency.
yeah. No, you're right. It's really interesting. Okay, last piece of the puzzle is like the future of hospitality marketing with like restaurants. What trends do you see that are happening? What do you see for the future?
Yeah, for marketing or for restaurants in general.
I think
For
both would be
marketing,
interesting. Well, for hospitality and restaurants.
yeah, well, I think that for restaurants, I can't call myself a restaurant marketer. I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm a B2B guy. I love business. I love helping businesses sell and be successful. My area is restaurant technology and my customers market to restaurant brands. So I can't really say how, I can say that, there's always going to be something different. I look at Chili's and user generated content and like, there's always going to be clever and really cool ways that restaurants are going to stand out. But there's going to be something that is true for everybody, and that's authenticity, being real, having integrity, understanding your brand, understanding how your brand resonates with certain people. I really believe what you put out there is what you're going to get. Taco Bell, for example, put something out there, and what do they get back in return? Exactly what they put out there. And this is very deliberate and masterful.
That's a question. What's your thought on? Because I was listening to a reel the other day, sorry, on Instagram, and they were talking about the coming of the prototype. All these AI style that are out there now to build apps are now coming with a flurry of people building SaaS apps for hospo It's really interesting to see because people are just building stuff on the whim now. They're like, I want to build X, and the little AI tool will go off and start building it. And then one of the reels was talking about in the next 6 to 12 months, you're going to see a humongous flurry of these like AI prototypes. Looking at the style of an app, but creating the basics and then saying, I think it seems like there's going to be a lot more tech coming and a lot more SaaS platforms coming, especially for the hospo. I think there's going to be a lot, and it's really interesting to see what's coming. You could tomorrow go to, I don't know, there's a app called Devin. You can go to Devin and say, I want to build a tool that does X, and it'll go away and start building the tool. You give it guidelines and stuff as well. So do you think that, I mean, it's gonna be great for your business, to be fair, because
Well, I'll tell you what. I mean, what you're saying, what you're describing, it almost feels like it's kind of happening. I mean, there are more restaurant technology solutions out there today than there was yesterday, and certainly 2 years ago. Forget about
yeah,
it. I
yeah,
mean, we used to have this, these what do you call them? Representations of the different categories inside of restaurant tech and the logos, for each category. Like, because we love putting logos in a category, even though half of these logos do like 12 things.
yeah,
But but the categories now are so fine. So we're getting a real refinement of specialty across so many different things. So everybody's like a surgeon, like a real specialist. And so with that, there's always going to be room for the all-in-one, and they'll have an advantage in some ways, and then the best of breed specialists will have an advantage in certain ways. But what it's all going to boil down to, and I preach this, I think, on everything, everywhere I ever speak, is that it's going to boil down to partnership.
yeah. I 100% agree. Yeah,
Yeah.
I was
And
actually
how
fair
well
earlier
does
today.
captive Wi-Fi play with others?
Yeah, I was at an event today. There's a company called Tenzo that do data analytics for restaurants. So they pull data out of Square, Toast. You can have multi different countries, people, different countries, different ecosystem systems, different stock control, all full fields into one data, like BI tool, basically. Really clever, and they have focused on partnerships in the last probably 10 years. And today was like a breakfast meeting with all their, with their partners, everyone coming together, meeting each other, talking to each other about what they're doing. And I mean, for them, their business has grown like exponentially just from nurturing those partners. So clever. Such a clever idea.
Pardon me, it really is. I think at the end of the day, the restaurants are mostly interested in technology ecosystems that work, that work. And that boils down to technologies that work well together. And so, you really need to have, I like to think there's a three-pronged strategy with any go-to-market. And the first one, we talked a bit about it, and that's ICP, defining really who your customer is. The second part is, getting that sales and marketing alignment together. And that third part is truly leveraging partnerships, seeking out and working well with technology players that have a footprint and being an important part of their solution, enhancing it. Because the
Yeah.
reality is, if they're enhancing your solution, there's a strong probability that you're also enhancing their solution,
And
and
also, you're making their brand better because you're
you're
providing
making
a
their
good
brand
solution.
better. So
Yeah, this is awesome. I mean, this is, yeah, my brain. I've got some homework to do, so we'll have to we'll definitely reconvene.
yeah,
But okay, so I'm gonna hit to the last questions. The last questions that we have is best restaurant. I know we talked about experience earlier, but this is the best restaurant.
yeah. So you know what? I'm going to go right to right to our industry. I'll go to my best restaurant. It's my favorite. It's like my favorite place to have lunch.
Yeah.
Kava, man. I love Kava. I'm a Kava freak.
Yeah.
What they do. I used to be Sweet Green, and I think Kava. It was Chipotle, then it's Sweet Green, and I just think I don't think they can mess up with their menu, man. I think I could put any of those 18 things together and be happy.
Yeah. Yeah,
I love
consistency,
it.
I guess, is probably a nice piece for you on that one.
I just love, yeah, I think Kava is awesome. I love their whole model. So I'd say Kava.
Best burger.
Another kind of favorite for me, this is, I love Five Guys. I'm
Yeah.
sorry, but I do. I don't eat it very often. I'll have like Five Guys once every
Are you?
5 months.
all the way? Are you at Five Guys all the way, or are you like
No,
are
yeah,
you a
I'm
little bit
everything, man.
specific?
No,
Yeah,
it's
everything.
everything,
Oh,
but I'd rather have raw onions than caramelized onions.
yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Nice.
I'm
Get that
more
crunch.
about the raw onion.
Yeah,
But,
yeah.
yeah, I think Five Guys is dope. I
Yeah,
love it.
yeah. I love the whole story about the fries. The fries thing is just does me every time.
It's
It's
the
just
most
good.
authentic thing. I love the fact
Yeah.
that they just hand it to you in a paper bag. Doesn't have a
Yeah.
freaking logo on it.
No, nothing.
And you go to the stores and you go inside the stores and like the posters are awful from like 19 or from 2004 or whatever the hell it is. And it's just and the technology is completely, there's no technology in front of you. There's a bunch of potatoes on the side.
Yeah. No kiosks. No nothing. It's just a till and off you go. That's it, right? It's
So
still here. I mean, even the brand new stores that are opening here are exactly the same. Like literally, it might look a
there's a
bit
beautiful
prettier.
thing about that. And I think
Yeah.
they know exactly who they are.
Yeah. Messaging is good. Best hotel.
Oh, I'm a Marriott guy, up, down, sideways, and backwards.
Nice.
My 400,000 Marriott Bonvoy
Bon-
points.
Yeah, I was about to say Bonvoy.
So
Yeah,
it doesn't
yeah, yeah,
matter as long as I know it's Marriott, then I know it's
yeah,
clean.
yeah,
That's
yeah, yeah.
that's what I want.
Nice. Two questions for the next guest. Could be a marketer and operator, and I don't even remember who's coming up next, but I have one next week. So I think I think they're in tech. But two questions for the next guest.
2 questions for the next guest. Could be a marketer, could be an operator. I would like to get their opinion on where they think the economy is going and how they think how is that going to continually impact our industry? And hell, if you want to get detailed about it, what is it going to do to food costs? What is it going to do to buyer behavior? What's it going to do to delivery? What's it going to do to high end, low end? I mean, we are in a world of weirdness right now. Yeah,
100%. I agree.
it's
And
scary.
it's like,
Scary for
it
a
is
lot of
scary.
lot
Yeah.
of
Well,
businesses.
to be fair, over here we've had the wage increase as well. So you've had a wage increase across the board. The national minimum wage has gone up, which means everything's gone up. So
Everything's gone up.
it's
I think you need to really kind of buckle down, have patience, and I think this is an opportunity for a lot of folks, particularly if the needle is not moving and the sales are not happening as quickly as you want them to. And I think for a lot of technology right now, that is the case. The buyers are not buying as freely as they used to in a lot of ways, and I think that's an opportunity, frankly, to revisit your brand.
I agree. Question number two.
Yeah. So if I had another question for somebody, and I'm going to mess this up because I haven't, but here's a good one. You know what? Here's a good one. I'm going to give you an interview question that I got a long time ago that I
Go for it.
completely flubbed. If you were going to design a car for a deaf person,
Yeah.
how would you go about doing it?
That's awesome. That is awesome. That's awesome. I love that. That's gonna be. I'm very interested. As soon as it comes through, I'm gonna send it to
All
you.
right, cool. I
So
have there is a, there's no wrong answer, but it's an interesting way to see how people's brains work.
I love that. Yeah, you're adjusting it slightly. Listen, I will put some little cheers in the edit from here. So I really appreciate your time. Thank you. Your story is awesome. I love how you've just flown in. You've just flown into the roles like it's just meant to be. I love it.
Yeah. I don't know. I do the Trump weave.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. It was meant to be. It was always meant to be. It was meant to be.
I don't know. Yeah, but thanks, Matt. Adam, you're awesome. Thanks, bro. I
Thank you. I
appreciate you
appreciate it.
giving me the opportunity to yap with you.
That's
And
good.
next time you'll have to come back to mine, and we'll chat a little bit. I'll get you to answer all these questions on
Yeah.
my side.
Absolutely. All right. Amazing. Thank you so much.
All right, thanks, pal.